Since Jeff and I last spoke, we have agreements, we have baseball, we have news, we have trades, we have signings, and Jeff and I are also going to do our 2022 fades in fantasy drafts. So stick around. Happy Sunday night, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. We are a partnership with WynnBet. We appreciate their sponsorship on all the RotoWire podcasts. Jeff, since you and I talked, things have taken a pretty darn good turn for the better. Last time we talked, we were not sure we were talking about baseball anytime soon. We had an agreement this week. We have lots of stuff to talk about tonight, but how are you?
I'm doing well. Just got back from SCARF, Southern California Live League, and I forget the ARF stands for, but it's part of the whole Earth group. It's like it started with BARF and then NERF, and so
Bay Area Roto Fantasy,
something like that. I wish I should know that, but anyhow, it was fun. It's now 10 leagues as part of an overall deal now, so it's becoming a big deal. It's live drafts, and it was fun. Most everybody was there in person. And it's good to put face to name and actually get to know folks in person. It's live drafts are so much more fun than I like an online draft, but live drafts are just the best.
Were you guys like at a bar, restaurant, someone's house?
We were actually at an office down in Balboa Island.
Nice.
All the way down to Balboa Island to go to somebody's office, but to do a draft. But still, it was great. People who don't know, it's an adjunct of Newport Beach, and it's Balboa Island's amazing. It's an awesome place. I didn't really get to enjoy the splendors of it, except for, but still, it's a beautiful day, good draft, good people. It was a good time.
If anybody's seen the OC or Arrested Development, they're both right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and there actually is a banana stand on Balboa Island, so that is actually from something. So
there's like two of them, but they're not really a stand. They're actually
now they are. Yeah. But still, the frozen banana stand is still what it's called. So
yeah.
But let's jump in. We have it's weird. We had the agreement, and then we had a couple days of everybody's like, oh, there's gonna be free agent frenzy and trades, and nothing happened. And it really kind of picked up yesterday. There's been a lot of news over the weekend that we're gonna hit. First one I want to talk about is tonight. We had a big trade between the Yankees and the Twins about 9 seconds after you drafted Ryan Jeffers. Apparently, the Yankees traded Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela to the Twins for my favorite, one of my relatives, Josh Donaldson, and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who got traded from the Rangers to the Twins yesterday. So he's made a couple moves there. What's your kind of overall thought here? I mean, it's obvious that, Sanchez catches there. Urshela plays probably third. Donaldson plays a lot of third for the Yankees. DH opportunities are probably less for JD in New York than they were in Minnesota, which I don't love because I like the idea of him maybe DHing kind of a third of the games with Stanton and Judge and all those guys there. That might be a little tougher. But where do you kind of fall on this trade in terms of, do you think anybody's significantly affected fantasy-wise?
So, I mean, I think that the big thing for the Twins is they got rid of all of Donaldson's contract. I think that was like their goal and their desire. The Yankees, they get short-term boost. They don't trade one of their big shortstop prospect, Anthony Volpe, and I hope I didn't butcher the name, but I think that was a big aspect of it there. They cut the cord on Gary Sanchez. I mean, I think this is one of those things that probably had to happen. Of course, I was looking forward to the Ryan Jeffers era, and we still might see it, by the way, because Sanchez is not a great defender. DH is pretty wide open in Minnesota. I could see him getting a lot of DH at bat. Sanchez get a lot of DH at bats with Jeffers behind the plate still. I thought that Kiner-Falefa, they got him to play shortstop. Now is it Urshela? Is it Sir not appearing in this film yet? Is it Urshela at short and Jose Miranda at third? I'm trying to figure that part of it out still.
I think a lot of those answers are going to be kind of, there's still a lot of free agents yet to sign, but I think that, Urshela has shown he could play some short. He's a really good defender. Obviously better at third than he is at short, but be interested to see how they kind of work that out. Do you have any sort of feel that, maybe getting out of New York might be something that Gary Sanchez needs and he might actually, kind of turn to the player he used to be, or you kind of, is that ship pretty much sailed for you?
No, I don't think it's sailed. I think it's certainly a plausible hypothesis. And certainly a chance, it can't hurt. Let's just put it that way. It's not like Yankee Stadium helps right-handed power as much as it does lefty power. Minnesota, Todd Zola and I were talking about this earlier, that Target Field actually did kind of depress right-handed power, which frankly surprised me because I just remember in DFS always wanting to get right-handed Twins hitters when a lefty was on the mound in target field. But that was
might
a
have just
couple
been
years
the
ago.
fact that that Twins lineup was just awesome against anybody in any park too.
That's true. But I always seem to remember like lefty pitchers in particular not doing well there. But I actually thought it was a pretty decent park. Now, keep in mind, 2020, they did not have to deal with the cold weather months as much in Minnesota.
That's true. Yeah.
Last year they did back again. So that's part of it. I'm still trying to figure out, what next shoe drops, but I got to think Miranda gets a better chance this year. Maybe Minnesota signs a shortstop. I think this prevents the Yankees. Maybe it doesn't fully prevent the Yankees from going after Trevor Story or Carlos Correa, but I think it makes it less likely to happen rather than more likely.
Yeah, it's funny how we're going to see in the next week or so here. We're going to a lot of moves that like, oh, this helps this guy, and all of a sudden another move will affect somebody. We talked about Ryan Jeffers. I was in our TGFBI league was still going on when that trade happened. So someone had one catcher, and obviously the next pick they made was Ryan Jeffers. I had one catcher too, and I was hoping he would last a few picks, but there was no chance that was going to happen. And now I saw a couple quotes saying they may split time. And I think you're right. I think Sanchez could see some DH appearances. Sanchez and Miguel Sano in the same lineup is a whole lot of swing and miss, though.
Yeah, it is.
Whole lot of power, but a whole lot of swing and miss.
Well, and the funny thing too is with the Twins. I mean, are they contenders? Or are they not? I mean, we're going to talk about another move they made, which is a great short-term move for them. I really like it quite a bit. But I look at that rotation, and it's we'll mention by name: Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Dylan Bundy. I guess. Maeda's not going to pitch this year. Is it Griffin Jacks? Is it Randy Dobnak? I mean, it gets pretty thin pretty quick. It doesn't strike me as a contending rotation just yet. I guess Sano would be the DH and Kirilloff at first base if they put Larnach in the outfield, but I also think that Sano will play a lot of first base, and Larnach will probably sit every once in a while too. It gives them some righty-lefty balance. Kirilloff is lefty, Larnach is lefty, Kepler is lefty, and Arias is lefty. So it's a lot of lefties in that lineup, so it gets them a little bit more of a right-handed pop, although I guess they had Donaldson. I guess that was the right-handed pop that they previously had. But, it's interesting to see what they're going to do after that. But, shortstop is definitely wild, I guess. I guess Arias plays third and Polanco plays second and Urshela at short. I mean, they could do a lot of things. They could put Polanco at short, and that still allows Urshela to play third too, I suppose.
Yeah, those guys are pretty interchangeable. They can move around. On the Donaldson front, I liked him in Minnesota. I like him in New York also. Getting in that lineup, I think it's all a health thing with Donaldson. That's not breaking news, but I mean, he was 53% hard hit rate last year, 17% barrel. I mean, he was vintage hitting the ball hard. Josh Donaldson. It's just a matter of how many at bats he's going to end up. How he can stay upright. Only a 21% K rate. You love to see that with a guy who hits the ball that hard. I mean, the profile is really there for him to be really good. It's just a matter of how many games he plays.
Yeah, I just missed out on Donaldson in this draft. I would have liked to have had him.
Yeah. So you mentioned Sonny Gray. Since we're talking about Minnesota, let's just jump to that one. Your Reds, it has not been a good time to be A's or Reds fans as we talked about on Twitter also. But they traded Sonny Gray to the Twins. Got a young, I think you said he was 18 or 19-year-old high school pitching prospect back. But Gray, 2021, he was a 4.19, 1.22 guy in 135 innings. The Ks were down a little bit, but still pretty good at 27%. Walks are a little bit high at 8%, but he's kind of the Sonny Gray that we expect. Outside of New York, he's always been pretty solid. A lot of red in his StatCast page. He's got great numbers against hard contact, against barrels, all that. Obviously, the park switch it helps here. Going from Cincinnati to Minnesota does help. How much do you move Gray up on this trade? Or do you? I guess
I do move him up a little bit. You can take a look at the splits. I think he got hurt by the ballpark below 2 years ago. I think he did not. He wasn't that expensive. That's the thing that was kind of so beguiling to me. And even as he had a pretty reasonable mutual option, I think. And I don't know. That's the sort of.
Do you read this as like full teardown on the way?
I mean, it's close. 480. By the way, the split I was right. 489, 344 last year. In 2020, but that was a weird season. It was 290 and 468. He was actually way better at home.
Yeah.
2019, he was great both places there. He's only like 12 million this year, 13 million in his option year.
Wow, that is a good contract. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good contract today's pitching environment there. So, yeah, Yeah, I do read it on the red side. It's a clear admission that they're not going to contend this year.
Right.
Because
I mean, you don't trade one of your best pitchers for an 18-year-old if you're planning on contending right now, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
And and let's face it, I mean, he throws hard, but when I'm talking, and he is, of course, I'm talking about Chase Petty, who went back to the Reds.
Yeah.
Petty throws hard, but he's pitched 2 professional games.
Yeah.
We don't really know much about him there. He's not like anybody's like top 5 Twins prospect. He's like 7 or 10, or depending on where you saw him listed. I think James had him like 396 in the prospect ranks. Sure, we can dream on the potential, but it's just a dream at this point in time. We don't really know.
Yeah, and it's like you were saying earlier, a 4 or 5 year away dream. Like it's not a next year kind of dream either.
Yeah, and I just and they've got so you can say, well, they've got Chase Petty and Nick Green. I mean Nick Lodolo and Green and all that. Okay, but Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo should be up this year. Yeah. By the time Petty's up there, they're going to be in arbitration. It's a whole. They're not even the same class, and they've got the Reds have a lot of interesting young arms, but they're not. They clearly aren't trying to contend this year. They're taking a step back, and Nick Krall, the Reds GM, had a quote yesterday, and obviously he's doing the owner's bidding here. So I don't want to slam on Krall so much, but the statement was, we're trying to get rid of the peaks and valleys. And I had a stupid little throwaway tweet yesterday, which of course got way more interaction than anything else substantive. It is like, okay, great, but can we have some peaks first?
Right.
Like where?
Yeah.
It's been 30 years since the Bengals have earned more credit than the Reds. And it's gone full circle. It's just as I'm wearing my Joey Votto jersey today for a draft. I'm still a fan, but gosh, they make it so difficult.
Yeah, I hear you there. The other news tonight, I'm just kind of sticking with the night's news. Nelson Cruz. There was rumors this morning he was signed with the Padres or the Dodgers, and then he signed with the Nationals. Did not see that full.
No,
we had a lot of rumors he was going to sign with an NL team. Once the universal DH opened up, twice as many teams suddenly want Nelson Cruz. But he's we've talked about his age all the time. He's 41 years old. But you look at like the last 7 years, his hard hit rate, his barrel rate are all just so good. I mean, it's not when the guy's playing, he's just so good. He had played 140 games last year, 32 home runs, 86 RBIs. Hitting behind Juan Soto is a pretty good spot, though.
I'd say so. 1 year, $15 million contract. I wonder, was everybody else offering less, trying to lowball him a little bit there? Maybe the Dodgers and the Padres are maybe concerned about the Cohen cap. I don't know.
I didn't want Dodgers. I thought maybe he would sit a few times there. They're just so deep, and maybe against tough righties they would sit him. I was really hoping for the Padres. I think that would have been a really nice fit with what they have, and kind of stick him in the middle of the lineup would have really boosted that lineup up.
Our Padres would have really liked that.
Agreed.
Yes, we've teased at that before. If he would have signed with the Padres, as you tweeted out.
Yep, that was the final straw right there. I was all in if that was going to happen.
Yeah. It did not happen yet, so alas. But I do like that landing spot. I think that bumps him up. He was going. I got him in round 22 of my Beat Jeff Erickson draft on Thursday night. Granted, earlier in the week, this past week, there was a tweet going around saying that he was going to retire and play in the Dominican, but clearly that was like the day before they came to a deal. So, round 22 is like. It's 240 overall.
I think I've stuck in my head, the Nationals are pretty good. And you look at that lineup, like 3, 4, 5 now is good, but 1, 2, and 6 through 9. I do like Hebert Ruiz, but like 1, 2, and 7 through 9. Lineup. It's a bad, I keep looking and I'm like, I think I'm missing someone. Then I was like, oh, they traded that guy. They got rid of that guy. But you got Lane Thomas, Cesar Hernandez, maybe 1, 2. You got Alcides Escobar hitting 7. Like that's gross. And Key Boom, who knows? Victor Robles, we've seen that story. Maybe he bounces back, but we've kind of seen the last couple of years. And you look at the bench, you're like, nope, there's nobody there. It's a weirdly bad lineup.
I kind of like Lane Thomas.
I kind of do too.
And I think Cesar Hernandez has his uses. But he was more useful 2 years ago than he is today, too.
Yeah, I mean, he played
which
a
is
lot.
Why he was available to the Nets. Yeah.
He had 640 plate appearances of 308 OBP last year. So I think he has some usefulness, but I don't think I want him hitting second for my team if I'm trying to win games too much.
Yep. I hear
he's like your 7th or 8th hitter. I think that works really well, and I do like him as a player, but Yeah, no, that lineup is weirdly. I mean, they got better today. I mean, you stick Cruz in between Soto and Bell. That definitely helps the middle a bunch, but not great. Although great for Cruz. I mean, Soto's on base all the time, so that definitely should be nice. Another signing, Carlos Rodon went to the Giants. 2 years, $44 million. I think Rodon was someone that's kind of lingering in this spot of like he was so good last year. Had the injury concern, what will teams see when they look at medicals? I think that the Giants signing him for that much money definitely going to boost him up a little bit. They figure, Giants have a smart front office. You figure they should know that they usually know what they're doing. They're pretty. Farhan Zaidi is really smart. Rodon was obviously exceptional last year. 2.3 ERA, a WHIP under 1. But that was after 42 innings total in 2019, 2020. Insane K rate. Like I had to look twice to make sure that was right. He's at 34.6% K rate last year, 40% whiff rate in a slider. Velo was up 2.5 miles an hour year over year. He was awesome last year, but where do you kind of slot him now in San Francisco? But still, that shoulder's still a thing.
Yeah, I haven't drafted him yet. I'm not against it. I don't really have a hot take about this, but I will say this. What if a year ago I told you that Carlos Rodon would sign a deal worth more per year and longer than Clayton Kershaw?
I would say that a lot has happened in the last year.
Yeah. He's freely available last year, which I guess he was freely available this year too, but for a different cost price point there.
Not quite so freely, right?
Yeah. I still question why the White Sox didn't offer him a qualifying offer.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why Rodon was able to sign for what he did, though, too, because it didn't cost any sort of pick compensation, too. So you look at it from that standpoint, it worked for him.
So his ADP over the last month in Draft Champions is 135. I'm rounding up a little bit, but 135. Do you think in a the online championship main event, do you think we're looking at like 100-ish for him? Do you think he's not going to move that much? How much do you think this Giants signing bumps him up when people are drafting here in the next couple of weeks?
I think it probably bumps him into the top 100 is my guess. I want to look up to see what's happened like the last couple of days because there's been plenty of drafts. I mean, one thing I'm so happy about is we do have a ton of drafts going on right now.
We do.
And I'm happy, as you tweeted out, I'm very happy for Greg Ambrosius and Tom Kasnick and Derek Boucher. And that's just great. I'm very, very thrilled for them.
ADP 112 in 21 drafts over the last 4 days.
There you go. You beat me to it.
But I don't know. I don't know if
that's searcher than I am.
I don't know if that's cut line. I don't know. That's all the drafts put together over the last few days. There could be a DC in there that started before too. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But that's up 20 spots right there. It's probably even a little more when you factor there might be a DC or something there. Min pick is 75.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking is it's going to be close to 100. So you compare that, say if he's at like 109, which is what I got from Friday through, I guess it listed Monday morning. So it's just starting from Friday,
right?
Cause he agreed on Friday. So, probably fewer drafts. It's only 18 drafts. Trying to look at, and it's like, there's not too many starting pitchers in that range is the funny thing. Like Darvish or Carlos Rodon, who do you got?
Darvish.
Agreed. Luis Castillo or Carlos Rodon?
Castillo.
Charlie Morton.
But
let me go behind him now. Blake Snell or Carlos Rodon?
Ooh, that's a good one. Snell barely.
Shane McClanahan or Carlos Rodon?
McClanahan.
Me too.
But it's right there though. It's definitely a couple rounds before, because if you even drop back, you're right, there aren't many starting pitchers in that range, but you drop back, like I take him before Evaldi and Shane Baz, I think. And
Tyler Mahle, I take him before. I take Rodon. Rodon versus Mahle, I'd probably take Rodon because I just hate what Mahle does in his home park. And, the team is getting worse, not better. So there's that too.
You take him Rodon or Sean Manaea?
Kind of want to see where Manaea's landing spot is first.
That's just mean.
I don't mean to be mean this time.
I'm kidding. I know. It's the only way to answer that because it matters because Oakland's such a great place to pitch.
It is, and I do think he's going to get traded. It might take a while though with Manaea. It might not be until in season, but I do think he does get dealt.
I think a number of these A's might get dealt at deadline rather than now, but I mean I don't really know, but I think that's the case too. But yeah, I think Rodon's probably up 25 to 30 picks. I think it's about right. I think that's kind of the range he goes on. I think and there was a lot of talk on Twitter about him and his shoulder and all that, but I mean, to me, the Giants giving him that much money and a smart organization, a smart GM signing him does affect it for me a little bit. I trust a little bit more that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's one of the appeal to authority organizations. And of course, even though the ballpark isn't what it used to be, it's still a pretty good pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah, it's still a nice place to pitch considered some of the other places. But we talked about the A's. They did make their first trade. They traded Chris Bassitt out to the Mets. Got a couple of prospects back. One of them was a top 5 Mets pitching prospect. Probably becomes the A's best pitching prospect right away. JT Ginn, I think was that name. Is that the name right?
Yeah.
I think that's right. I wanted to say Ted Ginn, but I knew that was wrong. Bassitt was really solid the last couple of years. 3.15 ERA last year, an ERA under 3 in 2020, 157 innings last year. K rate, he's not a huge K guy, but he got to 25% last year. Doesn't walk a lot of guys. All his X metrics are really good. Good hard hit numbers. Moves to a better team on offense for sure. And still a pretty good park to pitch into. So he's not like he got a huge, park factor bump down from moving out of Oakland, which some places can do. But I think it's a solid move for Bassitt. I think he's solid. I was kind of good at the price he was. His ADP's been about 130 to 135. I think he moves up a little bit based on team dynamic. Probably not as much as Rodon will, but I'm still kind of okay at the price. I think he'll just be really solid for you. I
think he will be too. I think he was a little lucky on home run suppression. If I remember seeing a Bloom board from Ryan Bloomfield, and you should follow Ryan on Twitter if you don't already.
I do.
And is either a Bloom board or just a straight up tweet about the Bassitt and his home run suppression being unsustainable. I think that was the gist of it there. And the home run to fly ball was 9.2%.
Yeah,
not outrageously low, but it's definitely low. I think that there's a chance that that does regress a little bit, but then again, he landed in a good ballpark. So. Yeah, I mean, and he doesn't walk guys. That's the other thing I like.
Yeah, and I like the K bump from last year. He got up to a career high 25%. I'm a little biased too. I think he's a really good dude. He was a really good. Everybody loves him and all that, but he was really solid in back-to-back years. I will definitely miss him on the A's. One of those guys that I like to root for and have on the team. But
we keep on bringing up guys, by the way, that I took on Thursday night. I took Bassitt, I took Gary Sanchez, I took Nelson Cruz. It's like
Thursday night was online championship, right?
Yes, okay. Online championship. So Jonathan Scope, look out, you're next. Or maybe it's who's next that's going to get traded from this team, or join a new team, as the case may be in the case of Cruz. But it's wild.
So let's real quick. There's a couple quick news notes before we do get to our fades. I do want to do that, but first, a note from our sponsors at WynnBet. WynnBet now is the exclusive sponsor for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcast. WynnBet brings you all the latest action with a user-friendly interface, moneyline bets, boosted parlays, over-unders, round robins, live betting, and so much more all at your fingertips. Want a break from sports betting? Head into WynnBet's digital casino and take a spin on roulette, double down in blackjack, slam the slots, or try your hand at Baccarat. WynnBet is now currently available in 9 states: Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia, all while rapidly expanding. At WynnBet, the possibilities are limitless. Register for WynnBet today. Make a qualifying deposit wager to receive $200 in free bets. Promotion may vary by state. Download WynnBet now. That's WYNNBET. WynnBet, the exclusive partner for RotoWire's Fantasy Podcast. So a couple other real quick notes before we do get to our fades. Yusei Kikuchi went to Toronto, signed for 3 years, $36 million. I feel like, to me, this is a better real world baseball trade than it is fantasy. I was worried about Kikuchi coming into this, and now signing the AL East worries me even more. He got blasted last year. I kind of liked him coming last year, but he had 47% hard hit rate, 11% barrel, both bottom 10 percentiles in those numbers. AL East is a scary move. They do a good offense. If you need to get some wins, I think that works. But I worry that Kikuchi's ratios probably aren't going to be great fantasy wise.
Well, I mean, this is a good test of the Pete Walker effect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm kind of interested. He was really good over the first half. That's the thing is, I really thought that there was a lot to like. I think he made the All-Star team, didn't he? And then he really collapsed over the second half. I think there's strikeouts that can be had there. He did get roped pretty hard in the second half, though, without a doubt. I was off him. Now I'm like, oh, I can see it.
Yeah, the Pete Walker / Toronto effect is definitely a real thing. I don't know. I look at how much hard content he gave up, and that it definitely worries me a bunch heading to the AL East.
Yeah, I wonder if he just wore down, if there was like a
Could be
conflict with he and the the Mariners pitching staff, coaching staff, something of that nature.
I think that 2021 second half was tough on a lot of guys. I mean, after coming off the 2020 year where not everybody threw very much, he threw 47 innings in 2020. I think that the wear down thing in 2021 had to be a real effect.
It could also be it also could be the grip.
Yep, that's true.
Grip enhancement. I mean, there's so many different things that it could have been. So yeah, I'm open-minded, but open-minded to be like my 8th or 9th pitcher.
Yeah, I'm probably off unless I'm in a spot where he just kind of falls and nobody wants to touch him, and then maybe I think about it, but not someone I'm targeting at the range he goes. The other note in the Isaiah Kanner Falafel trade we talked about going from Texas to Minnesota. Mitch Garver went back to the Rangers. He's hit 256 last year, 13 home runs. One of those guys, a lot of swing and miss. He's a 29% K rate, but great hard contact, 54% hard hit, 17% barrel, like a really elite level hard contact guy. He had 31 home runs in 2019, then the really ugly 2020 year where he was bad and then got hurt. Does Garver going from Minnesota to Texas change anything for you, or still kind of in the same spot he was before?
I view it's kind of lateral. I think the question with Garver is just health, right? That's still going to remain questionable. I feel like Jonah Heim loses out. I was kind of like hoping to have him be kind of a sneaky late round catcher, and now not so much. But then again, I mean, Garver is not a great defensive catcher. He has improved. Todd was talking about how he's worked. Garver's worked to improve his defense a little bit behind the plate. But I gotta think that, I don't think it's all is completely lost. But the thing is, now Heim is like fighting for a smaller piece of that pie.
And Heim's fighting for a roster spot, right?
Yes,
because they like Jose Trevino kind of defensively and managing the team and all that. I mean, I think there's a chance that Heim starts in AAA.
Yeah, I think you're right. DH is a possibility, but you never really want to count on that.
For all the guys
the Rangers,
for all the guys they've signed, there's still open spots there too. So I mean,
look at their rotation.
Oh well, yeah. On the pitching side,
really don't look at the rotation if you can help it.
They signed Martin Perez this week, so there's one spot taken care of.
Great success. John Gray and Dane Dunning are interesting, and after that, maybe they'll find some sort of developmental path that gets them there. Maybe Perez will do well in his 13th time around with them. Maybe Taylor Hearn takes another step up, or AJ Alexi, but it's definitely doesn't look at first glance to be a contender's roster. I mean, I think, third base, it's Ibanez or Solak or Sir not appearing on this roster yet.
Yeah.
The outfield, you got the Calhouns, you've got Adolis, and dot.
Yeah, it's for a team that had spent a lot of money. You look at it, you're like, boy, this roster was really, really bad last year. It's just they're still a work in progress, especially on the pitching side. You mentioned Clayton Kershaw, 1-year deal to go back to the Dodgers. I don't think we really know what's going on. He said he didn't touch a baseball till January 1st, but then in the next sentence said he was going to be ready for opening day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have any clue where he is. You can guess all you want, but I don't think there's any way to know kind of where he is physically at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. In fact, I'm glad that he's with the Dodgers. That makes me a little bit more confident with him than, say, if he signed with Texas on a make good deal. But the fact that it's 1 year, I mean, it shows that they're not really all that excited about him either. I mean, at least all that excited about his prospects. Certainly, there's other people that got better deals. And they lost out on Max. They lost out on some other guys. I still think they need another pitcher still too.
Yeah, they have depth, but not really high-end depth after Buehler and Urias.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you got I can't.
With Bauer, we don't know how much he's going to
and we don't know
at all for them.
And Dustin May is a long ways off. I mean, that was Tommy John in the middle of last year too. So, a couple other kind of injury notes on high level guys. Ronald Acuna, there was a tweet that came out that they're hopeful he's ready in May. Was the exact wording on it. So it's not like he's going to be ready May 1st. It was hopeful he's ready in May. So I mean, maybe that's May 1st, maybe that's May 10th, but it ain't April, is what it sounds like. So.
No.
I think a lot of people were drafting him, thinking the season was get delayed and, all the games missed were games he wasn't going to play anyway. But I think people thought he was coming back earlier than that. I think there was a lot of people who thought he was coming back mid-April, all that kind of thing. I mean, he had moved up to he was kind of like at the turn and second round. Then he moved up to like middle first round. I saw him going to middle first rounds recently. That's not a great. I mean, missing a month of Acuna is pretty significant when you're talking about who you're taking him instead of.
Yeah, honestly, I gave him 147 games, and now I'm moving him down.
What do you do now? Like $125?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's the exact number I landed on. Actually,
I promise you, I don't have it on my screen.
No, I haven't. I haven't hit submit yet. I'm literally changing it right as we're talking because I saw that note happen while we were doing Scarf and didn't have a chance to update the projection on him yet. But
I promise I don't have spy software on your computer either. Then
yeah, I know you don't.
I don't.
Other smart people do though, because they're but it's crazy. No, the other smart people know better than to have it on my computer. But he's out of the first round for me clearly now.
No, I didn't have him. I didn't want to take him in the first round. We talked about a couple weeks ago. I was like, do you take him instead of Mookie Betts? And do you take him instead of Bryce Harper? And it was tough for me to do, but I think it's
take him ahead of Teoscar now.
Yeah, it's easy for me now. I mean, you take 6 months of any of those guys against 5 months of anyone, and you're gonna. I mean, it's pretty significant. It's a matter of where you do it. Do you drop him? Do you think he goes? I think he goes still probably early second round in 15
teamers.
For
me, he doesn't.
No, not for me either. I just think there'd be someone that wants him there. It won't be me though.
No, and that takes away another power speed combo guy up at the top too.
Yep.
That might slow the rush of starting pitchers as we get closer to Maine that we usually get. That and news about other starting pitchers. It's like we just don't do we move them up. And I don't see it. I think. By the way, I think one of the stories I underestimated was how long it's going to take some of these guys to report to spring training.
Yep.
We saw a note with Ranger Suarez. We're seeing it with Luis Castillo. I think you're going to see it on almost every single team.
Is Castillo not going to be not back in time?
They didn't say when, but I saw a note saying that he is going to be they said he's going to be delayed. They didn't say how much. I shouldn't say a little delayed. It could be, he just said he's going to be delayed. Okay. He and Jose Barrero for the Reds. Ooh. And they said family / what was the other reason? Family / travel reasons. Yeah, I read that to be visa reasons.
I said Suarez was a visa reason.
Yeah, I think the Phillies were just more honest about it.
Yeah. And Castillo, he'll ramp up a little bit, but with Jose Barrero, that matters. Like, he had a chance to maybe start at shortstop for them if he's in camp, but every day he misses, you got to figure it hurts that chance a little bit.
Now, if he shows up on Tuesday instead of Saturday, okay, whatever, it's no problem.
But if he shows up next Saturday and misses a week and starts to miss a few games and someone else is playing, I think that matters.
I think you're right. And they did say they're gonna focus on him at shortstop. No center field work this time in spring training. And they're also going to focus Nick Senzel in center field. So maybe they've learned not to dick around their prospects and just leave them at one spot. I don't know. Crazy idea.
The other note that kind of goes along with Acuna that we saw today, Zach Wheeler in that Ranger Suarez blurb of stuff. The GM said that he had I think he had a shoulder thing or a shoulder something. I think he called it a shoulder thing in December. Wheeler said he's fine. He's going to be ready to go, but a shoulder thing where he's behind and maybe not ready for opening day. I mean, that matters, especially when you talk about a shoulder with a pitcher.
Yeah, it does. And if the funny is the reporting started as just, he's just a little behind normal rest. And then, shoulder, it's like, and that's where the lack of reporting for 2.5 months really kicks in, or 3 months even.
Huge.
I moved him down, I think 15%. Which essentially went from 31 to 27 starts. Okay. That might be modest as far as the downgrade goes. I don't feel comfortable taking him in the top 4 rounds in a 15-teamer, and probably not even in the 5th. I think there's a lot of other if you gave me a list of other starting pitchers, I think I'd take maybe Joe Musgrove and Max Fried ahead of Zach Wheeler now. I think it's at that sort of range.
Yeah, I think Rob Silver had a poll up today about how many, if you had to project how many innings, and I think I clicked the 150 to 170 range, but and that matters. I mean, if he was at 185, 190 for him, that's a big drop down. And the problem is if he misses 2 or 3 starts, you got to figure the 2 or 3 starts after that, he's not going more than 4 or 5 innings max. So it not only affects starts he mentioned, it affects those next 2 or 3 starts too.
Right, and just because I'm going to be going hard now. Well, let's see what happens. Maybe it'll hurt again too. I mean, and maybe he'll compensate. He won't. And he's already coming off a career year.
Yep.
I probably was too high on him to begin with.
And he's coming off a 213 inning year too.
Yeah. At least you didn't have the stress of playoff innings, so you got that going for you there. If you're,
That's
sorry,
true.
Phillies fan, they can. I only joke because my Reds are in the same boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it does, that those innings matter too, and in fact, they matter more. They're a lot more stressful. So
that's a good point in the shoulder. If it was like a back tweak or my calf kind of hurt in December, wouldn't care. But shoulder is oof. It's not.
Yeah, I think Frank Stanfield was asking where you put him overall. I said 75 to 100. That's probably not among pitchers, but just among players.
But also known as you won't get him then.
Right. But we'll see. I might. Well, here's the thing. I mean, right. If we had to draft tomorrow, I wouldn't get him.
Right.
Because there's going to be no other information. But if a week from now he's still not throwing from a mound, that's going to go.
I think I saw a 12 team. I didn't Chris List's 12 team. I think he went in the 5th round this afternoon.
So 12 teamer though.
Yeah. So that's pick 48 to 60 in there. So I don't think I would do it. I don't think I could do it yet then.
I tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah. So let's talk about some fades. It's always a fun topic we do kind of in the preseason. Maybe a guy or two at each position that we are not drafting. We don't want to draft. All of it, of course, is based on price and how where he goes. Where either in an auction, what the price is, or in a draft where he goes in the draft. Not saying we don't like the player, wouldn't take him at some point, but it's always a price sensitive thing. But
sure.
Let's start at catcher. My fade here, it's I'm sorry, I don't mean to pile on here, but mine is actually Tyler Stevenson on your Reds. Strictly a price thing. I think he's an interesting catcher. I would like him a little bit later, but his ADP is about 150. So we're talking in a 15-teamer the 10th round and a 12-teamer like the 12th, 13th round. I just don't really see it at the price. 2021, he had 10 home runs, 45 RBIs, and 402 plate appearances. So a good chunk of plate appearances. Did hit 286, has a nice ballpark, so I'll admit that. Good strikeout rate, but he's kind of a middling hard hit guy. Barrel rate is 5%. And I look at the minors. He had no huge pop numbers in the minors. He homered 11 times in high A in 2018. I get we're going back, but that's his high. 286 last year was the highest he hit at any level. So I'm a little concerned that maybe that has a batting average peak. Look at something broke.
That's just the cat being the cat.
You look at
live animals on the show. All right.
You look at his StatCast page. The strikeouts and walks are good, but all his other stuff is blue. I find it hard to get fired up about it. If he was to pick 200 to 225, I think it'd be an interesting, person to get as your catcher. But at pick 150, it's just too high for me, and I will not be taking him at the price.
Yeah, and from March 1st on, it's pick 129. So
I'm definitely out then.
Doug Dennis was trying to kind of convincing me that maybe I was a little too low on him, and I kind of caved a little bit. I think I got him in labor around 160 to 170, a little lower than ADP, but I see your point on him. I get it, and the lineup seems like it's getting worse, not better around him. I think he's going to be one of those guys, one of the few catchers that actually does get DH at bats. I think he is worthy of that a little bit. Always been a pretty decent prospect, just had to stay healthy going through the minors. There's some power there. I think there is some growth possible, but I grok your point. It's a reasonably high price to pay. I think I'm more inclined to get him. Yeah, I will take a discount on him if he gets 175. I'd probably do it again, though. That's probably where I differ from you a little bit. My guy is Dalton Varsho. I can't bring myself to do it, Scott. I understand the appeal of getting stolen bases from the catcher spot. I understand he's probably going to play more outfield, but I don't think that's a guarantee. And he didn't start really hitting well until really late last season. And I don't know. He's often drafted as the 4th catcher off the board. And I give me Grandal over him straight up, and probably give me Contreras over him straight up. Plus just other players at other positions. I'm just not willing to pay that price on him yet. And ADP just from March 1st on. Oh wait, no, this is just since over the weekend. I'm sorry, that's what I'm looking at. No wonder I'm a little off.
I have it in front of me. Last month is 90 essentially.
Yeah, and so I have it at 81 over this weekend. So from March 1st, it's a little different there. I should probably scroll back to that because that's just a little too granular. Yeah. But still, I think the point remains. He's still the 4th catcher. I've got it as average pick is 82.8 from March 1st through today. So
even moving up a little bit.
Yeah, I know James Anderson likes him, so James is a very smart guy, and so you might get conflicting advice from us even here on RotoWire. I can't bring myself to do it. I don't have him anywhere yet. I need him to be in the hundreds. I still take Grandal and Contreras over him.
I'd go so far to I think it's an absurd price.
Okay. So we actually agree. Hey.
We are definitely on the same page. There's so many names around him that not even catchers, just other players around him that I would take so fast instead of him. I think at that price, like you're baking in all the profit possible. Like if he's really good and you kind of do what he wants, like I think that's about the right price. And I hate to do that. There's so many people I'd take around him. I think it's just way too early. You're talking the 6th, 7th round in a 15 teamer. I'm not even considering him at that price.
Yeah. What I've usually been doing is getting I get Smith or Real Muto. I haven't gotten any Salvador Perez. I'm not necessarily fading him, but I guess I am a little bit because I don't have him. Or I'm getting Grandal. And then otherwise I'm kind of just waiting on catcher. So that's the way I've been approaching that position so far.
One of my tasks this week is to figure out who my waiting on catchers are. We're going to do our guys next week, and I'll have a couple catchers. But I'm having some trouble finding some, but that's kind of the goal over as I'm really ramping up draft prep, getting ready for Vegas.
And that's a good thing about that. That's a good thing you brought up about just the prep is, I think that knowing your spots, and all that. So very cool. Very, very cool stuff to kind of go through with that position by position, category by category, not the same, obviously.
For sure. I want to get to first base, but first a note from our sponsors at Better Edge. Do you think your betting skills are good enough to win you tickets to the Final Four? It's time to put your money where your mouth is. Better Edge giving away a trip for 2 to the Final Four in New Orleans. All you have to do is join their contest at betteredge.com/Final Four. Better Edge believes sports betting with no fees should be the norm, and odds are it's legal in your state. Check it out and enter the March Madness contest for a chance to win a trip to the Final Four. Head on over to betteredge.com/Final Four. That's BETTOREDGE.com/Final Four. Terms and conditions do apply. So, Jeff, we move over to first base. And as I should have said, when we're talking fades, I do all guys, at least the top 200. I try and get guys in the top 10 rounds. I don't want to pick someone I'm fading and pick 320 because that's no fun. But my guy at first base is an ADP at 120 is Ryan Mountcastle in Baltimore. 2021, he hit 255 with 33 home runs. I look at his profile. I don't really get excited. The hard contact was under 40%. He's 41st percentile there. Did have a nice barrel rate, but I'm concerned about the strikeout rate bump. It went up to 27.5%. He clearly was selling out for power, which did work with the home runs. Swinging strike rate is huge, 16.2%. So that's the 6th worst in baseball among all the qualified hitters last year. So like a ton of swing and miss in this bat. Doesn't walk much, 7% there. I think batting average 255 is not going to be that high. I think he's more of like I could see a 230 kind of average. You got the fences moving back in Camden. He's a right-handed hitter. I think that's going to affect his power. He's you look at chase rate, the major league average is 28%. He was 38.5%. He was 3rd percentile there in baseball. I just don't like his approach. I think that clearly the power is there with the barrel rate, but I don't like his approach. I think he strikes out too much. I think he swings at too many bad pitches. I think he hits 230 with like 24 home runs, and that just does not work at the price, I don't think.
God, we're agreeing way too much.
Oh, nice. That doesn't happen very often. That's good.
I think it happens a lot, actually.
Usually on these, like I remember last week we had a couple that we disagreed on, but
I kind of just copied you, I think, a lot of times because you're a smart guy. So I have him at 25 homers. I may have a little bit of a better batting average, but even that, I probably should downgrade a little bit there. I did those series of videos of fades with Alan Sislowski on YouTube, and I think Mountcastle was my Orioles fade.
So maybe I copied you then.
Probably not, because you probably it's the first you've heard of the video. That's okay. There's dozens of people that have caught it, so we're good. I'll keep saying Max Muncy is my other fade though.
All right.
Pick 135 since March 1st, and that's probably going up because the news.
I think that's definitely going up.
The news has been quasi positive. It's been pretty positive, but this is a guy that could still need Tommy John someday. He did not have surgery on a torn UCL. I know he's not going to be throwing strikes, but he's also. Now he's going to play the field. I think he's going to probably end up playing second base. I think I think they're strong contender for Freeman. And even if not, I think he'll still play some second. And I don't know. I feel like there's a chance he could change his swing. Ohtani changed his swing some when he was playing through a torn UCL. You can do it, but it's not totally natural. And I've seen him go earlier in some places too. But I just don't want to take on that. Why introduce that risk when there's 17 other first basemen around that price?
Yeah, and I think your point about him moving up is really good. I mean, as soon he said I'm gonna be ready for opening day, and like everybody's like, oh, everybody got the greatest draft, cheapest draft driver, and
Yeah.
I worry about the no surgery too. I mean, that's still it's still in his elbow. I think it's his left elbow, so at least not throwing arm, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
but still, that's your essentially his power arm hitting, and it's not his lead arm at least. But I mean, still, there's enough there that I'm worried about it enough. Right, I like you. I kind of just take the other guys around him. I think.
Yeah.
And he's so good too. Like it sucks. He was unbelievably good last year. 36 home runs, hit 250, ton of hard contact. But I worry about any kind of lingering issues that's not taken care of also.
Yeah. And of course he's a monster in OBP leagues, but
yeah,
that weren't, NFBC is not that. I mean, in Tout Wars, Tout Wars, it's OBP. So it applies differently there for sure.
So second base, mine will probably be one that people do not agree with very much, but ADP 31. I'm going way up the board on this one. I am not drafting Whit Merrifield this year.
Wow.
I know stolen bases are important. I know they're big. I know he had 40 last year. They were obviously huge. But you look back, he had 20 in 2019. He had 12 in the short season in 2020. I just think it's a really high price for a guy who's so reliant on that one stat. He's a brutal hard contact guy, which I know a lot of stolen base guys are, but he's really brutal. 28% hard hit is 6th percentile, 3.5% barrels, 12th percentile. Doesn't walk, so I like my stolen base guys to walk a little bit. He has 5.6% walk rate, so he's not going to get on base there. OBP last 2 years. So we talk about a guy that's really valuable, been really good, but 325 and 317. I get his K rate's good. That helps. He's a lot of balls in play with his speed. I think the 10 home runs from last year is more likely than like the 16 to 20. Maybe I had a couple years prior to that. I don't think his batting average is a sure thing either. His XBA was 263 last year. He hit 168 against breaking balls. I think there's enough here that like he could turn into a 2-category guy really quickly, runs and stolen bases, and the average might be just kind of doesn't hurt you, but doesn't help you. I think the power, leading off, there's not going to be any RBIs. I think the power is going to be 10 to 12 home runs. I just think there's a lot of ifs here for a guy that goes at pick 31. And I'm not paying the price this year.
Interesting. And a lot of this has to do with the pressure it gets put on you trying to find bags, right?
Big time. I mean, it's hard to do, and I understand why people take them. I just I'm going to plan my stolen bases in a different direction where I'm not using my second or third round pick on him.
I can appreciate that. I got him in TGFBI at 343, so 13th pick of the third round.
That's pick 43. That's a much better price for sure.
Yeah. Would you do that late third, early fourth? Is your tune change a little bit there?
It probably changed a little bit. I mean, obviously that's so dependent on who I have in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, and the 15 picks later, which is a whole round later, that changed. The 3-4 turn's a lot different for me than the 2-3 turn.
Yeah, and of course, it's it's like you said, it's the build that you have. But assuming you need stolen bases, you go Trevor Story or Whit Merrifield.
So it's just a hard question. I go Trevor Story.
I think I do.
I need to know where he signs. I need to know that his team looked his elbow and all that. But like, I saw some rumors out there, people worried about his elbow, and then you're like, oh, that's a problem. And then you never know coming out of cores. I know there's some guys that have done well, but teams seem to be a little hesitant. I'm surprised. I was talking with someone else that I'm surprised that Freeman, Story, and Correa didn't sign with like 36 hours of when it all started. I'm surprised it's gone on this long. I thought they were we're going to know where they were going and stuff. I'm a little surprised the big name guys haven't signed yet.
Honestly, I think it is because they actually, both sides, the players and the teams really weren't in contact with each other during the lockout. Yeah. Because
Brandon McCarthy had a tweet that said both sides were really worried about getting sued in lawsuits. So he said that was really much the case. I was surprised by that.
I thought, and I initially when I thought about it, it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be like instantaneous. Like, oh yeah, but I actually get it. You don't want to be the one team that gets caught cheating. You don't want to be, the agent that, is going behind the other agent's back and all that. So
I think I'm so used to the NFL and NBA where that just happens constantly that I thought it would happen here too. I mean, the NBA,
it's not a lockout situation.
It's not a lockout. Yeah, it's true. But it's like, the free agent period is the 15th and everybody's signed by the 8th.
The legal tampering thing. Yeah. But also keep in mind, it's a land rush in those sports because they do actually have a cap. So there's although functionally, I think we're getting to that point in baseball a little bit, but we'll see. Tyler O'Neill or Whit Merrifield if you need stolen bases.
Oof. Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah. So
I'm not the hugest Tyler O'Neill person, but I think I go the hard contact, the power speed combo, and hope that the strikeouts don't kill his batting average too much.
That's why I asked you that one, because I thought that would be a tough call for you. So,
what about, is there anybody you find yourself fading at second base?
A lot of the non-running guys, like I love what Jose Altuve did at the plate.
He was my second guy on this list.
I don't want to pay that price for a second baseman that doesn't run. And I think Altuve's running days are done. So it's kind of the opposite of Merrifield, where you're getting him for the stolen bases. Altuve, I'm avoiding him because of the lack of stolen bases. It's just, what's
your home run projection on Altuve?
I got him at 28. It's still a pretty positive projection.
I would bet the under hard on that.
You would? Okay.
Give me like 23.
Interesting. I mean, the last two full seasons were 31 and 31. So
if he didn't play in Houston, I'd say like 18 too. That Crawford box is just a joke with him. It pisses me off. But no bitterness towards Houston at all. But
none, I can tell.
I think that 31 is like so. 2019 was happy fun ball. I think that 31 last year was. I don't know. You look at like his hard contact, his barrel, like it's just everything has to go perfectly for him to hit 31 home runs. I think 23, 24 is just more likely. I get it that he pulls the ball. I think every home run he hits is a freaking pulled ball. It's so obnoxious. But
all but one of his homers last year were to the pull side.
There you go.
Shortest average fly ball distances with anyone with at least 30 long balls.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm fading him, so I agree with you. And maybe I should give him even a little bit more pessimistic projection. So he's not going to. He had 5 bags last year. I've got him for 5 tops this year. I mean, it's just he's not going to run. He might even run less than that. There's a point where he probably stops running entirely.
It's fun. Oh, what was that?
That's just me coughing for a second.
Oh, I looked down. I thought your cat did something.
Can't blame the cat this time. Just me.
It's really weird that ADP range with Altuve. There's 6 second basemen and 7 picks, which is really wild. It's Altuve, Lau, Polanco, Edman, Marte, and Jonathan India are back to back. It's a really weird run of second base where they all go off the board at once.
And it's what's also weird is I get almost none of them. I don't have any Lau. I don't have any Ketel Marte. I'd like some Polanco. That's the guy in the group I wish I had more of. I don't have any Jazz Chisholm. I don't have any Jonathan India. I do have a couple of Edmonds but those were in early drafts in the NFBC 50s when I think the stolen base market wasn't as mature. And now he's getting pushed up a little bit more.
In a really good segue, my third baseman is the one person in that 7 that's not a second baseman, my fade. So let's jump to that one. My fade at third base is pick 83. The 6th third baseman off the board is Nolan Arenado in St. Louis. Last year, 255 with 34 home runs, 105 RBIs. He was really good power source. Obviously, no speed. He had 2 stolen bases. Great K rate guy. So there's a lot of positives there, obviously, with Arenado. But again, I look at hard contact with him, like 31st percentile hard hit rate, 32nd percentile in barrel rate. Obviously, you're never getting any speed, but you look at his sprint speed, 21st percentile. So that's not just stolen bases, but that's like it affects his BABIP too. His BABIP the last 2 years have been 241 and 249. I think he's got a little bit quiet. He hit 253 and 255 the last 2 years. I think we think of him as a pretty sure 3-category guy with average batting average or average home runs and RBIs, probably and a bunch of runs there. So a 4-category guy, really, but a lot of fly balls. He's slow. He has 50% fly balls. It's going to hurt the batting average also. You talk about pull hitters. Every home run he had last year was pulled. I just don't like his approach right now a ton either. Pull rate was 46%, highest of his career. I feel like he's just he's guessing a little bit. He got beat by fastballs a lot last year, which concerns me as a guy who gets a little bit as a more veteran. He hit 228 against fastballs last year. His slugging his fastball was only 421. 11% or more pop-ups last 3 years. A lot of easy outs. He doesn't strike out a ton, but you stick those pop-ups in there, and suddenly that automatic out rate goes up a little bit. You look at his StatCast page in like 2016, 17, all this red. And I know he played in course of his red. And you kind of slowly get a little bit less red in 2020 and then a lot of blue last year. I just don't like the way Arenado is trending. I think the price is too high for me.
I respect all that. I haven't landed on him. I'm trying to see if I wonder if do I even have him in any league so far? I don't think so. I got a Rendon share and I felt kind of great shame about that the other day, but only because of the injury risk. But I hear you. I hear you on that. Arenado is pretty pricey for what you're getting there, and I do not have any Arenado yet. So there you go. Mine's almost too easy. 2 guys It's Adalberto Mondesi. So Siege, go watch Drive to Survive for a second if you're listening right now.
Have you watched any episodes yet?
I haven't yet. I will this week.
I've only watched one. The first one was fantastic.
Oh, I mean, and last
So
year
good.
was it's such a great documentary, and last F1 season was so compelling. That I gotta imagine what they do with that season is just going to be so good. But Mondesi, I mean, it's just, it's kind of the case makes itself. Really, I mean, it's you're going for the stolen bases if you get them. You're paying a top 4 round price, and we see a huge range. Yes, he could get you 80 stolen bases. He could also get you 80 at bats. I mean, and that's possible, I think. And you're not going to get RBI. You're not going to get batting average probably. You're even really probably hurting with power. I know he has had spurts and flourishes where he's done that.
Well,
Plus,
he had one spurt.
Yeah. Plus, the other thing too is, and we've gone this over time and again, but
right.
When you draft him, it's usually at the expense of any other stolen base guys, or at least you're totally in reliance of him. So you need him to do what he does in that one particular category, or else you're screwed in that category. I don't like being in that position. Yep. You're already doing that with closers. I'd rather not have another specialist.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the ball harder last year, which you'd like to see, but like the strikeout rate even went up a little bit. I mean, he strikes out 31.5% of the time. It's just, I don't know. His OBP last year was 271. Like, I get the Royals don't have anybody really, but like, you can't have a guy hitting 271 anywhere near the top half of the lineup, no matter how anti-analytics or whatever it be, or you may not have good players. Like, you still can't have the guy hitting first or second.
Yeah, I don't think the Royals are necessarily anti-analytic either.
No, I don't think so either. I'm just saying, there's no way you can support that, even if you don't care about it. It's just 271 is brutal getting on base.
Plus, I mean, you have the quote from Dayton Moore. No, you can't count on him as an everyday player. We're going to have to manage his workloads. I mean, yeah, he could get 100 games and still get you 60 stolen bases. I get it, but you really want to be in that position.
Fourth round for a guy who you're not sure is going to play every day is just
right.
Not obviously, not for me. It's funny you mentioned Siege. If Dalton Del Don's your league, you're not going to get Mondesi either because he's going to take him. It's
good players, by the way.
Really good players.
I don't mean when I mention it, it's because good players that are on this guy. I mean, there are counter arguments.
Dalton dominated leagues last year with a similar approach of pitching and speed early and then figure out the power later. Dalton was awesome last year. I like Dalton as a person too. So I'm obviously not saying anything bad about him. It's just he likes Mondesi and I don't, you don't. But I mean, that's what makes it fun is you've got people who are good at this game who disagree. If we all agreed, drafts would be really boring and literally would be ADP and would not be very fun.
Exactly.
So let's do what we're going to do. We'll do shortstop and outfield. I think we might save pitchers for next week if you're good with that.
I prefer to do that. Yeah,
got a little bit long. I want to make sure we don't speed to the pitchers. But first, a note from our sponsors at Thrive. Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy's exciting player prop fantasy contest. With Thrive Fantasy, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on only the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Sign up for Thrive Fantasy today and receive a free 6-month RotoWire subscription. Here's how you claim your free RotoWire subscription. Number 1, visit rotowire.com/thrive. Number 2, deposit a minimum of $10 and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Number 3, play in your first paid contest where you receive that free 6-month RotoWire subscription. So finishing off the infield, Jeff, we've got shortstop. Probably another one here that people will be mad at me for, but I'm not taking Wander Franco at the price. ADP is, 59.5 over the last month. So you're talking a 4th, 5th round pick in a 15-teamer, a 5th, 6th round pick in a 12-teamer. I love everything he does. He's obviously insanely talented. He's still 21. What he did last year in 2020 was insanely impressive for how old he is. Hit 288 in 308 plate appearances. The guy is amazing. He's going to be a superstar in this league. But we're talking redraft leagues. We're talking 2022. We're talking draft price. I look at it, and he was really good last year, but he had 7 home runs and 2 stolen bases. Like, I don't know what I do with that. The batting average is nice, but okay, what do I do with the power and speed? Hard hit rate is only 37%, under a 5% barrel rate. So, like, it wasn't like he was smoking the ball in the doubles and all that. K rate's impressive. 12% for a guy that young is just insanely good. But you look a little bit deeper. You look at 2019 and A and high A, 9 home runs, 18 stolen bases. So a little bit of speed there. That's nice. 2021 in AAA, 7 home runs, 5 steals, and 180 plate appearances. All right, too. But I just think at this price, I mean, look at projection systems. Most of them have 18 to 20 home runs and 10-ish stolen bases and 290, which is crazy good for 21. But like, is that fantasy good in the 4th and 5th round? And for me, it's not. I think the hype here is too much in terms of fantasy. I think the hype in terms of real baseball is great. His baseball cards are insanely crazy, making the market right now. People are lining up at Target to buy him. I get that. All his rookie cards just got released in Topps and Bowman and all that. but I can't do it at the price. I think 59 is way too high. I would probably need to get him at like 85 or 90 to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's similar to Carlos Correa in that he's a better real life player than a fantasy player.
Yeah.
He's got baseline speed. Different. That's how he differs from Correa. Correa just doesn't run, period. But Franco has never been like a huge stolen base guy. The power could come. Even the stolen bases could come. It's possible, but you look at like 2019, for instance, he was 18. He got 18 stolen bases, but he also was caught 14 times.
Oh wow.
That speed, but does he have stolen base moxie? It may take another year. I think the push here why he's going higher is because you don't want to miss out on the next Vlad.
For sure.
Where a generational talent kicks in. I just think it's probably a year too early. So I tend to agree. I want to have him somewhere.
I do too.
There's
badly.
Some serious FOMO problems here going on.
And when the Rays are on and he's up, I sure ain't switching the channel. That's for sure.
Right, exactly.
So, I think he'd be fun to watch. I love great young players in the game. Just not going to be on my team, and I'm going to have to accept that at the price.
Right. And the other problem too is there's really like 18 shortstops I want in the first 120 picks. Not all of them are primarily shortstop, but I love a ton of shortstops. I get Bogarts all the time in the 4th round. I like the idea of a Lindor bounce back. I like Javi Baez as a dual position stolen base guy. I don't love his batting average, but still, I like Polanco. I like, I don't mind taking Witt if I get like plus 100 picks on him. Like I think I've got him at 110 once or twice, and that's the range I'm looking at. Up and down the list, I love Dansby Swanson. We know this. Point is, I like a lot of shortstops.
Yeah, and you're at like shortstop 17 there. Like, there's just so many of them. It's just, there's so many guys in the top 60 I like. I just can't do it at the price. I mean, I'm not getting there. I understand there's a chance I may be missing his breakout season, but I think it's a couple years away too. I think he's gonna be really good. I just think fantasy good maybe a couple years away from that.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick on mine. Corey Seager for the price. I'm not taking him for that price. Doesn't run. Worst lineup. Ballpark really isn't an improvement. I think, and we talked earlier about that Rangers lineup. It's not great.
Yeah.
Again, and it's a position where I'm hoping to get some stolen bases. It's really hard to take a non-running shortstop.
It's funny because I love Corey Seager. I love everything about him. But then we talked about him maybe 3 years ago, and you said, "Yeah, but we were getting your stolen bases in the middle infield." And I was like, "Oh, that's a good point." If you had a bunch of stolen bases early, I think he works. But you're right. It's hard to get one stolen base from your shortstop this year.
Yeah, and that pretty much summarizes the case.
I love watching him hit, though.
I do too. I love him, and I wish he were still out in LA. Even though I'm not a Dodgers fan, I kind of like the Dodgers now. Kids like the Dodgers, and we go to games. So thus, even though I grew up spending my life hating the Dodgers, I don't hate them now.
They are a fun team to watch. There's no doubt. I will never be a Dodger fan, but they're you can watch them now too. That helps. So, outfield, I struggle with a lot. I kind of summarized 2 or 3 guys, and I changed my mind. We'll do a couple outfielders real quick each. My kind of top 75 outfield that I'm not taking. Sorry, Rays fans. I didn't mean to do back-to-back guys on you here, but mine's Randy Arozarena.
Oh, no. I just took him tonight.
Sorry, you should have texted me before you took him.
I guess I should have.
Well, he still could work out. But, it's funny. You look at last year, I felt like last year was up and down. Then you look, and you're like, oh, 2020, 274, 94 runs. It worked out last year. It was kind of a bumpy road getting there, and I had him in the main event last year, and I kind of felt like it was bad. And then I look at the stats, I'm like, oh, it worked out really well. But I just see a lot of issues. Strikeouts at 28% still last year. Hard contact does not jump out. He's under 50 percentile in barrel rate, under 60th percentile in hard hit rate. So, not terrible, but just – and you look at some of the X numbers, like his XBA last year was 222, 9th percentile. That really scares me a little bit. That 274 maybe is not what it seemed to be. X slug was 17th percentile. X WOBA was 22nd percentile. His whiff rate on breaking pitches and off pitches both over 37%. He struggled against anything that wasn't a fastball last year. I think he has a lot of batting average downside. My concern with that is that not only the stats we get from fantasy, but I think if he's hitting 225, 230. I think he loses playing time in Tampa too. They tend to platoon a lot. There was a time last year he was struggling. He kind of missed some games and he got hot again. He got back in, but with much they platoon, he's a righty. I hate to see him start to sit against any righties. And then at pick 62, I want someone that I'm not worried about playing time. I'm not worried about batting average. I just think that speed power guys are hard to find, but he's a concern to me that is a little overpriced at the moment.
Yeah, and that might be the reason why he is it's hard to find those speed power
It
guys.
is.
So yeah,
You
you make a
were
good
you
point.
were you like, oh, he's there and I kind of fit there, or is it like a target for you? Do someone you like?
More like I needed another speed power guy is what I thought. I thought that was the kind of how I started. I started off with Cole and Freeman, so I'm needing some speed and power after, needing some speed with some subsequent picks. I did get Will Smith in the 4th round, which also means I still needed more speed after that. So maybe that, it was kind of a lineup construction thing. I was light on speed the whole draft. I'm definitely, that's going to be my thing that I'm going to be looking to try to add over the course of the season. I don't know. Maybe I could go a different route there. If I, maybe that's the play there. But like I took him over Jazz Chisholm. That was my choice.
Kind of similar kind of things. Like there's some batting average risk there, but the speed power is nice. It's weird. Like you look at his minor league numbers. You're like, I wish you could. The strikeout rates were like in the high teens. Like it was a different player, but I think the power wasn't there either. So I think there's kind of a give and take with him. You wish I would like to see him get down to like 22-28%, maybe hit a fewer home runs, but get on base a little bit better. It is walk a little bit. His OBP was good last year. It's 356. But his BABIP last year was 363. Like that freaks me out a little bit too. I think that he's fast, but I don't think that's repeating. I just think 245 is more in play than 275. Put it that way.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I can see that there. I'll just give you one guy that I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of, and that's Christian Yelich. I know it's not top 75, but it's top 100.
Yeah. I can't figure this one out at all. So I'd like to hear what you say.
Well, and part of it is the can't figure it out, right? Yeah. If it was a simple explanation we could point to and say, okay, well, it's figured out, that's done. But I don't think the back is ever. I mean, it has been is 100%. Just where'd the power go? It's just gone. I mean, he's had some hard hits. Some of his StatCast stuff is okay, but he swings less. He strikes out more. He might start running less and less. He might be at that age. He might be hitting a little bit of a cliff. I've been on board saying I'll take Bellinger over Yelich, and I think there is a reasonable price somewhere out there. I think, and maybe best balls he's worth it a little bit more, but we say that about 1 billion people. So it's not really great advice to say, oh, take him in a best ball. But there's other guys I'd rather get there. So I'm usually pretty happy when someone mentions him and I can just click him off.
I usually have a lot of strong opinions on guys. I just cannot figure this one out. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like there's ways you look at 2019, you're like, oh my God, you just get that in the 7th round, like you're winning all your leagues. It's just the last 2 years have been so rough and so bad. You mentioned the power. He has 21 home runs total the last 2 years. Like it's been gone, and you worry about him stealing bases with that back. I don't know what to do with him. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure it out. And before we get to Vegas, if I want to take a chance on him, I think I'd have to have the right build where I have like a really kind of safe, really nice floor team the first 6 rounds and take that shot. But I think it would have to be a team that were like, this is a spot where, if he's a guy who was the last couple of years, like I can deal with it. And it's just, it's still tough in the 7th round. You need to get production there.
Yeah, you do. And I did get the haircut on him in a best ball 10 league. I think that was the only place I've taken him so far. And that's the only place I'm probably going to take him.
Yeah. So my other guy here, I got one other guy, and it kind of hurts me to say because this is someone that I was a target for me last year and someone I do like as a player. But as I dig in a little bit deeper on him, Trent Grisham is not someone that I'm super fond of anymore. His ADP is about 136, so you're still 9th, 10 turn in a 15 teamer, a little bit after the first break in a 12 teamer after the 10th round. I called the break, but after the 10th round, 2020 was pretty blah. He had 15 home runs, 13 stolen bases, so that was a pretty decent double there. But hit 242, and what I liked about him in 2020 was like he showed a lot of hard contact. He kind of was growing into that and took a step back. He was 36.5% hard hit rate last year. The barrel rate dropped in half to 5%. You look at like 2019 and 2021, they match up better. 2020, that short season, maybe looks like a little bit of an outlier in his hard contact numbers, both. So that's concerning there. I worry about his getting dropped down the lineup against lefties, and it's scary because he's actually better against lefties. He only had a 712 OPS against righties last year. So like if you're gonna have a guy that maybe gets dropped in lefties, like he better mash righties, and he Didn't last year. Dropped his Ks a little bit. The walks are still good. That helps us get on base and steal some bases. But He's a career 242 hitter now. I think there's a chance he gets moved down the order pretty quickly. It depends on who they sign. You know, I was thinking of Nelson Cruz when I kind of wrote this up yesterday. I was looking at it, but obviously he didn't sign there. But it depends on who they sign, if they have somebody to move up there. But you look at, like, he was 30th percentile in XBA, 17th percentile in X slug. I just don't think he's as good of a hitter as I thought he was maybe coming into last season.
So looking at alternatives, you know, so that's always like, what are you going to pivot to? Are you going to pivot to Akil Baddoo? Avisail Garcia?
I'd probably wait around, maybe pivot to Baddoo. If I have speed early, I'd pivot to Lourdes Gurriel. I do like him. I like his hit tool better. I like the power and the average better there.
Pivot up to Gurriel, by the way. He's actually a couple picks earlier since March 1st.
Earlier now. Wow. I was just looking at the last month. So that there you go. There's moving up a little bit. It depends on T build, but I'd probably pivot to Kyle Schwarber, depending on where he signs to. Obviously not Mountcastle. We talked about him earlier, but I was just surprised. I dug into Grisham a little bit. He was someone that I really liked last year. He was kind of targeting last year. I was a little surprised when I looked at just how kind of blah he was last year.
Yeah, I think this need for speed is really driving a lot of things too. I mean, and as you start going down this list, you're starting to like, oh, where can I even find 10 stolen bases?
I know. That's hard. If you're not going to take Merrifield, Arozarena, and Grisham, I get there's three guys I mentioned tonight that I don't really like.
Or Mondesi, that's another guy.
Yeah.
Check that guy off the list.
It sure as hell makes me want to take someone that gets stolen bases in the first round. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Real quick, someone asked in the chat, when do you draft a catcher? Can you pick up another player you want instead and add a position later? I mean, in NFBC type rules leagues, you have to take two catchers and you have to have them by the end of the draft. I am usually someone who takes a catcher like in round 13 to 16, somewhere in there. Then I get a second one kind of before the end rush. So maybe like round 21 to 23 is usually my. Every once in a while, I'll take an early guy, but that's usually kind of if I look at a draft, and that's like a typical draft would probably for me is right in there.
I'm willing to take either Smith or Real Muto in the fourth round. It's got to make everything else has to make sense. But I haven't been taking Perez as often. And if I don't get those two guys, I'm definitely waiting on catcher typically otherwise. So that's the way I look at that there.
Will Smith is damn good.
Yeah, he is.
I really like that. I really like that play. I have to look a little bit closer at Real Muto. I haven't looked at him this year, but I really like Will Smith. So if he's in the right spot, I'd probably take that one too. But usually I find myself with like the 10th to 12th best catcher, and then maybe the 17th to 20th right now. So I like to get my second guy before that kind of final run of everybody getting their second guy.
Yep.
So cool. We're gonna save pitchers for next week. We've gone a little bit long here. We'll just we won't have as many news. We had a lot of news notes that happened like right in front of the podcast this week. We won't have that. We won't have that quite next week. We'll have a lot of news notes during the week that will get covered in other podcasts. We won't have quite that rush, but we'll talk about pitchers next week. I do have some pitcher fades and some closer fades that we'll discuss, and Jeff will have some also. Jeff, anything else you want to talk about? Anything else on your mind?
No, I think it's a good time to sign off.
Beautiful. Well, thanks everybody for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. We do appreciate that so much every week. If you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he's at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. We can answer questions on there also. If you want to hear about other fades or people we had maybe on our list but didn't talk about, definitely happy to answer there. Other than that, if you could please rate and review the podcast, it helps us out a lot. Also, if you appreciate listening to us and enjoy it, definitely leave a bunch of stars. Other than that, Jeff and I will be back at you next Sunday night. Hope everybody has a good week. Enjoy all your drafts and all the baseball news that's sure to come. Take care.